Alright, so this isn't like my usual Faction Wars videos, which you guys can check out over on my Patreon, which is in the link below. This video is basically like a different kind of perspective. Like, what if this planet was invaded by the Galactic Empire? Like, what if you had the Galactic Empire come down to the world of Amphibia? Obviously, I kind of figured to do some more Amphibia videos because, you know, the finale is this Saturday, which I know, yes, I will try to review it if I have the time this weekend. I will try to review it. It is on my to-do list. Don't worry. I know a lot of people are like, are you going to review the Amphibia series finale? Are you going to review the Amphibia season finale? I am. Don't worry. It's coming. So, the Amphibia... So, what would it be like if Imperial troops landed on Amphibia? Now, obviously, the one thing you have to look at is weaponry. Obviously, with a lot of the Amphibia races, is that they are, like, medieval, kind of steampunky kind of era. Whereas you have the Galactic Empire, which has mastered space travel. And, you know, has hundreds of war machines at their disposal. The thing, though, is that terrain is going to be a problem. Obviously, the Empire, with most of their troopers, is that they are stark white, and a lot of them don't have, a lot of them have trouble traversing swampy terrain. Though it's not much of a problem when you have an AT-AT just smashing its way through underbrush. AT-STs probably would have a little more difficult time, but I don't see that as an issue. The other thing is, too, is that that stormtroopers obviously are going to not only be dealing with the frogs, toads, newts, and the other life forms there, they're going to be dealing with the wildlife, too, because... Yeah, the best way to describe Amphibia is that it would probably be a lot like being on Felucia, where you have a world full of dangerous life, of dangerous wildlife and terrain, which is hard to maneuver in, but you also have a military, in some cases, which is more of a guerrilla tactics, which Cham Syndulla had perfected on Felucia. So, there is your problem. Guerrilla tactics would be used by definitely the frogs. Full-on warfare would be done by the toads as well as the newts. And you have to look at, you know, Andrias' army. I do imagine that, you know, dealing with two warring factions would probably work in the Empire's favor. But what they would probably do is send Imperial officers to either... probably send them to each side, like maybe be like, hey, if we help you depose this bad guy, we'll take over and you guys can be free citizens of the Empire. To which everyone in Wartwood would be like, no, we're not doing that. That's stupid. We're basically trading one dictatorship for another. That's not okay. And if they went to Andrias and Darcy for you know, aid to take out this rebel, this rebel insurgency, I think Darcy and Andrias would be like, no, because we want it, you know, we're the conquerors, not you, and the Empire would be like, frag them both! So, you would be basically facing a war on two fronts, and two different kinds of warfare as well. You have the guerrilla tactics of the Amphibia resistance, and you have the machine army and Andrias himself out there fighting on a more military front. So you have to really allocate your forces constantly. It's something we've seen in real life all the way back to several points, but obviously I'm referring to one key point in current history right now of a certain war going on in Europe right now. So that's our idea. So that's kind of what I envision it, is that but here's the thing. Unlike the war going on in Central Europe, the Empire doesn't fuck around. When they send troops to take down a planet, they don't half-ass it. That's the thing. The Empire, if you make enough noise that the Empire has to listen, they're gonna cut that shit out real quick. So... yeah, they're going to be sending vehicles, troops. Now, the question is, like, oh, they have Thrawn, they have Tarkin, they have Vader, they have the Emperor. How can you stop them? Here's the thing, though. I don't think that they would like Tarkin or Thrawn even would be needed for this. Tarkin and Thrawn would kind of see this as like, oh, it's just another planet. They would, and the Empire wouldn't allocate them to utilize against Amphibia. Maybe Vader. Vader would probably be the biggest gun they would send, not the Inquisitors. And the reason why they would send Vader is probably because not only Andreas, but also, you know, the Calamity Box. Like, that kind of power the Emperor would kind of want. So he probably would send Vader to assist. Like, he would be like, Lord Vader, like, he'd be like, let me try my best Emperor voice. Lord Vader, there's a disturbance on this Amphibia. Go there and bring me this box. That's my best Palpatine. Sorry. So really the only person I could see boots on the ground wise, if you want to go by big names in the Empire, it would probably be Vader. And I assure you, when Vader steps on the, he takes one boot on the ground on Amphibia, your game's over, because you don't need anyone else. Not just, Vader's intelligent. He knows how to run an army. He knows how to inspire that army, whether it be fear or something else, because the Stormtrooper Corps are his boys. So these guys are going to hit hard. Vader is going to be leading the charge most of the time. And oh yeah, did I mention that the Empire has Star Destroyers? They have Star Destroyers. Why is that a problem? Gee, I don't know. Maybe because there's no force in Amphibia that can get up there. Except one thing. Except the moon, which we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to fight an enemy who can just orbital bombard you out of existence. Like, literally, if the Empire is dealing with, a two-pronged war and they're fighting a entrenched opponent, they could just be like, Star Destroyer Invictus, we need coordinates set, pop and smoke, good luck. Roger that, we are aiming cannons now, boom! Now granted, the moon could probably be a problem too, because I imagine the Corps dealing with the Empire, fighting the Empire, would probably unleash whatever ungodly hell that thing has inside of it. Granted, I could have done this video sooner. After the series finale, but I was like, I couldn't get the thought out of my head. So yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, I'll do it now. But the Empire would be just constant, like they would send troops after troops after troops. I do think in the first initial wave, since they'll see the planet as like not having advanced technology, they'll probably send like maybe a garrison or two. But once that garrison starts having troubles, that's when the Empire goes, so we're done fucking around. Remember, they are capable. Let me actually quote Neil deGrasse Tyson. When your opponent has mastered space travel, hyperspace travel even, you have already lost the war. Because you can only pray that your opponent is benevolent. Like, that's the only thing. Like, that's kind of the real world situation of, like, if aliens came down to Earth, you can only hope they're benevolent, because a species that has mastered space travel and mastered it well has already beaten you. Like, there's no way. Yeah. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think? What do you think it would be like if the Empire invaded in Amphibia? Who do you think they could last? Do you think they could hold out? Or do you think they would all be bombed out of existence? No Death Stars, no Thrawn, no nothing. Vader at most. And that's probably just to get the box. Anyway, so once again, if you haven't already, hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I am Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.